Debris blanket the California city of Sierra Madre. Tumbling from nearby mountain slopes left bare by recent forest fires, an angry surge of rainwater and melting snow strikes at foothill areas with devastating fury. The avalanche of mud rolls relentlessly on.
Flooding is one of the most common and ancient disasters to appear in recorded history. Flood myths are found around the world in basically every civilization, like in ancient Greece, ancient Mesopotamia, India, China, North America, but most famous of all is the biblical flood recorded in Genesis. Quote, Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, so God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth, so make yourself an ark of cypress wood. I am going to bring the flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Noah makes the ark and survives the great flood, of course, and ends up becoming the father of the new world, all thanks to his faith in the greatest father of all. Now, this story probably predates the Abrahamic faiths, as it shares many similarities with the Epic of Gilgamesh, but in any case, it's been a resounding hit worldwide and read many times over thanks to the Bible. Now, it's been over 2,000 years since Noah hit the scene, and a lot has changed. Among the United States' devout Christian population, the mood is grim, and far-right conspiracy theories seem to go hand in hand with deeply entrenched religious ideologies. You've probably heard of some of these, like the pro-Zionist Christians that believe Israel's existence will somehow bring about the second coming of Jesus, or the more generically insidious and hateful idea that Jewish people control the world behind the scenes. But today, we won't be looking at anything as openly spiteful as that. No, today we're going to look at the spiritual descendant of Noah's flood myth, the Great Mud Flood. Have you ever wondered why ancient ruins are always dug out of the earth? Or seen photos of buildings that have seemingly sunk deep into the ground and wondered how it happened? There are logical answers to these questions, but I am not interested in those bland and straightforward answers. The mud flood theory, on the other hand, provides a much more intriguing and scintillating idea, that after a set interval of years, a great mud flood covers the world, destroying humanity except for the select few with preemptive knowledge of the flood who are able to hide away in bunkers or other hiding spots. There's no agreement on how often this occurs. Some say it's only happened once before, 1,000 years ago, others say it happens every century. But they do agree that a wave of mud covers the world to reset humanity. Victims of the mud flood include the Romans, whose architectural influence around the world is seen as proof that the Romans were, in fact, a global and highly advanced civilization complete with free energy and harnessing energy from the atmosphere. It's claimed that the super elites who hid away in advance of the Great Mud Flood then simply uncovered the ruins and pretended to have built them. For example, the 3,500 ornate libraries that Andrew Carnegie supposedly created. How could one of the wealthiest men in America possibly afford that? It's all just covering up the truth, that these elites just built on the ruins of others. This idea is, of course, stupid. Even accounting for survivors of the Great Mud Flood being able to uncover the ruins of the Old World, there's little chance humanity could reach the population size and technological level we are at now if there was indeed a catastrophic incident that wiped out the majority of humanity only 1,000 years ago, much less in the past 100 years. But it is fun, and it does sound an awful lot like Noah surviving the original flood. There's that somewhat stirring biblical notion of being one of the chosen few to survive and then recreate humanity in your image, sculpting a new era of man out of mud, dredging crosses up from cathedrals now buried under a ton of earth. The most infamous mud flood example given by believers is the St. Mary Magdalene Church in Omaha. I've seen it pop up in a number of mud flood videos, and it was by far the most convincing evidence of buildings sinking far below that I had seen. According to the official narrative, the church was constructed in 1902 and appeared as you see now. Already a fairly imposing height, there's a shocking revelation. A whole nother floor buried beneath the surface. You can see the clear dividing line in these shots here. Look how much was buried. And as you can see in this image here, huge layers of dirt and mud are being removed. Perhaps this entire city was dug out of the Great Mud Flood. This is a stunning revelation, and it is truly mind-boggling, except for the fact that it isn't true. In fact, the actual truth is probably more interesting. You see, Omaha was built around 6 steep hills in the downtown area. Being that hills are hard to build land on, it was decided to clear them out. Rather than a force of nature or the whim of God, human greed is what moved the mountains in this case. The project began in 1880 and would finish in 1920, and is an incredible feat of human engineering. One portion of the city was 37 feet lower than where it was originally. That is astonishing. But what about our church specifically? Well, they built down. An entire new floor and new foundation was created, and as you can see from this photo here, there was nothing underneath the church prior to this further construction. Nothing was unearthed, simply created. You can even read comments about it from the pastor himself in this authentic article from the Omaha World Herald, published in 1920. I find it safe to say that this mudflood example in particular has been pretty thoroughly debunked. However, if I had not seen the original photos and been so intrigued, I would have never bothered to check any of this out. These fantastic achievements of human engineering, both the street lowering and the building down, were new and exciting information to me. And yet, what would cause someone to be so distrustful of history that they would come to this buried under the mud conclusion rather than the truth? Decades of learning has definitively proven that the Earth was not simply created in 7 ordered days, and that clash with the biblical scripture has led to a complete dissolution with science for Bible literalists, as well as more than a touch of resentment. This mixture of cynicism and a firm belief in an active God is a staple of far-right Christian conspiracies. Look no further than the groundwork that the mudflood theory is based on, flat Earth. It's a core component of the theory. How else could a wave of mud cover the entire Earth at the same exact moment? Flat Earth itself has a lot of crossover with young Earth creationism, which is of course tied back into the idea of the biblical creation of Earth being an accurate account. In Noah's time, God was an active force who openly punished those who sinned and rewarded those who stayed by him. The mudflood takes that notion and adds a nice 21st century cynical touch, this time where the evil ultraleads are the ones who primarily benefit. It's safe to say that the mudflood theorists are mostly hardcore Christians with some wishful and vengeful desires. These are the same sorts of people that hoard weapons and food for something like a zombie apocalypse, only with a religious spin to the madness and underlying hope for the craziness to actually happen. They look around and see a country engulfed in sin that they would like to see purged now, just like in Noah's day. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, there's no solid ground to stand on when it comes to this theory. When most of the evidence for a theory comes down to conspiracies about basement windows and simply not believing well-recorded construction history, it's pretty obviously bunk. But while their minds may be in the wrong place, these theories do ask some extremely interesting questions, and the real answers are pretty compelling. I wouldn't be surprised to see even crazier theories arise soon, and hopefully they will help us to unbury some other great stories of human achievement along the way as well. Thanks for watching.